I hope that you've taken a shot at number of files. But before we jump onto there, by the way, if you have print lines in your code, take them back out before you submit it. Once it's all working, once you're passing the test, take out your print lines because first, that's a good habit to get into because print lines slow down your program and you don't want to leave them there in a real application. And second, it could break grade scope or at least make it real messy to grade. So take your print lines out when you're done. Okay. Um, Number of files. Again, very similar here. As a strategy, I can go through each file and I say, well, if it's a file, count it up. That's an approach. So if you haven't given it a shot, do that now. Get started. I'm going to pause and then I'm going to pause it and come back. So now if you're here, you're still here, I'm either guessing you don't want to give it a shot or you did and you need some help. So let's, as I said, let's use it exactly. I'm not going to copy and paste. I'm going to build this line by line again. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so I can see my lines. I want to use it for reference, but I don't want to just copy and paste. So I'm going to say for the file F in the start directory. Now, again, you should understand what each of these constructs is doing and why it's doing it and what it means. So list files is giving you an array of files that are inside of this directory, assuming it is a directory. Um, and then I'm looping through each of those files one at a time. Hopefully you know how this loop works in Java by now. And so the next thing I want to say is, well, if f dot is a file, if it is a file, right? I want to count the number of files. So count plus plus. All right, well, that's counting all the files in the directory. Let's give it a shot, see what happens. Did not. Did not. Okay, expected 6, but there was 1. So do you see the problem? I mean, maybe you see the problem right away. If you don't see the problem, well, add print lines. Oops, sorry. That's my Python teaching in my way. System.out.println. Start directory. Oops. And system.out.println F. So how many files did I look at here? I looked at 1 and returned 1 because I never navigated into either the subdirectories. I just ignored the subdirectories, right? So, well, if it's a file, I'm going to count as 1. Else, else if f dot is directory. So what do I do if it's a directory? Well, it doesn't count as a file, but I still need to see how many files are in that subdirectory, right? All right. So if it's a file, add 1. Otherwise, if it's a directory, add to the count the number of files in that directory, and that should work, right? Oh, not only, I got a Stack Overflow error. Now you may not have encountered these so far. I wanted to cause one on purpose. So what does this mean? Well, since I already added my print, I know a little bit what it means. If I look here, it says source files test, source files test, source files over and over and over again forever. So what this was is when I called this, I let Eclipse finish the code for me, which sounds like a good thing to start, right? It compiles. It's less work for me to do. It all works. But let me warn you, tools finish code for you, but did not do so understanding the problem you're trying to solve. Eclipse adds start directory there, but only because start directory is the name of the parameter on line 33. It happens to also be a variable in this code because it's recursive, but it set me up to fail in the Stack Overflow. It's kind of like saying, I am in this room right now. How many how many pieces of furniture are in this building? And so there's three pieces of furniture in this room, and let's go check the next room. I'm in the same room as I was right now. How many pieces of furniture in this building? There's three pieces of furniture in this room. Let's go to the next room. I am in the same room I just started in. There's three, again, Groundhog Day type loop where you never ever progress to the next day if you've ever seen that movie. So the issue is I keep checking the same folder over and over again because I keep passing in the same folder and over again. And what happens is eventually we run out of memory. We just have done this too many times, and the computer's like, I have no more space to continue doing the same thing over and over again, and it stops. So what do I want to do instead? Well, it should be obvious. I should go to F, right? The next folder that I just found, the directory I just found. So I don't want to just trust that the code finishes correctly. I want to do it this way. And I've counted the number of files correctly. Again, we didn't need to put a ton of print lines inside there. We might not need to do any print lines inside of there if you wrote it right the first time. That's the beauty of this, is these are really elegant solutions. They're really simple. I can take something that's a really complicated directory structure that might have hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands of files and folders and whatnot, and I can solve how many files are in that in 6 or 7 lines of code, maybe 10 including the curly brackets. So another example here. See if you can jump off now and figure out the number of hidden files, which I'll give you a hint. Is hidden, right? There's your hint on how to get this one done, and the size of contents. So get free space, get total space, get usable space. I think that's what it is. I should double check this. Um, I'm not going to show it to you. Let me just double check my solution real quick, because I haven't used this all. It's really, really rare you use this in programming, and I think that's what it is. But I might be wrong. So let me just double check before I give you bad information. Oops, there it is. My solution. You already saw those two. Um, Size of contents. Oh, no, no, no! It's wrong. I lied. It's length. Length is the size right here. So let me just give you those two quick hints about how to do that in Java, and then see if you can get the size of these. These are very, very similar to the ones above. Again, my encouragement to you is to build them one line at a time. Making the mistakes as unsatisfying as it is towards the time it takes to finish the assignment, get the points, and move along, the mistakes is what makes you better. And solving the mistakes quickly is what makes you better. Let's think of it this way. Why do musicians sight read? If you've ever been in a band concert contest, right there, you have music you practiced, and then there's a segment where they just hand you new music, and you get 20 minutes to practice it, and then you play it for the judges. Well, it's because dealing with new things is an expression of skill. It's like if you play sports, why do coaches throw different defenses at you depending on the sport you're playing? Well, it's because dealing with the unexpected slows you down and makes you less apt. And so that's why it's okay to make mistakes, is because it gets you better at when those things happen in the future. So build it from scratch, make the mistakes, ask for help so you know how to fix those mistakes ahead of time. Don't just copy and paste. But there's two more chances for you to solve very similar problems, and I'll tell you they're very, very similar to the ones up above. It doesn't necessarily mean that what you did to solve the file system is going to help you to solve the other recursive problems. But it is adding to your repertoire of ways to use recursion. And I believe that that's really the important thing, is there's probably 8 or 10 common patterns of how people recursively solve problems. And once you can get those patterns down and apply them, then you can tweak them and customize them from there to solve all sorts of problems when recursion is the appropriate solution for that. So Again, this example allows you to use a little bit of for loops because Java needs you to. We can't really, we kind of sort of could do it without recursion becomes a without loops, but it becomes a pain at this point. The other exercises, you really need to avoid loops for the most part. There might be special cases, but don't do it if you can avoid it, especially if the problem asks you to do it recursively and it doesn't require something special. So good luck, ask for help, but just understand that you do need to just practice and see some of these solutions before the next one is going to become easier and easier. And so just the more you code, the better you're going to be at all code, but particularly at recursion.